you know, what it really comes down to is we have a lot of expectations, but we don't typically take the time to really establish them as well as we should when it comes to key expectations. So when you talk about a key expectation, we have lots of expectations, don't we? In fact, we have different levels of expectations. We have some very basic expectations of, I want you to be nice to me, right? That's an expectation. But then we have key expectations in the business as it relates to the results. When you look at our driver goals, when you look at our key results, what do we really, if you break it down, when John opened up the day today, what are we really trying to accomplish? If you just capture, what is it we're ultimately trying to do here? Grow the business and create new products, right? Those are some expectations too, aren't they? And so we have some documents that we've developed around this. We have some goals. What do we call them? We have a document that tells us we've got 9 things on it. What is it? Our driver goals. Are those expectations? Those are expectations. So we have expectations all over the place. So we differentiate all these expectations that we have between those and what we consider to be key expectations. Now, a key expectation is where not delivering is not an option. When you look at something and you say, you know what, that just not delivering on that is just not an option. And now let me give you a sense of this. When you think about having versus establishing and key expectations, in the UK there was a building that was built. Really excited that the architecture guys, the architects working on this and the owners of the building, they were really excited about this building. It was built to look like an ark. That's right, a boat, a big boat. The building was built to look like a big boat. Now, it was phenomenal looking, very creative. I mean, it had all kinds of really neat features from the outside. It literally looked like a big boat, and it was a building. It was an office building. Now, by the way, what's the intention behind building an office building? To have people actually house it with business, right? To have people working in these office buildings, right? Now, at the end of the day, this building won a ton of awards. In fact, if you were in a taxi cab in the UK and you asked about the building, they'd go on and rave about how many awards that building had won for the way it looks and for its design and creativity and everything else. Now, when the building opened, the owners were pretty excited that this was going to be filled with tenants and it was going to be this great office building. But what they had found was, about 6 months in, there wasn't hardly anybody filling up this building. Now, as they came to look into this a little bit more, it turned out that a lot of companies didn't want to be in a building that looked like a boat. Right? They didn't want to be in the building. They also realized that a lot of the technology and the options that needed to be in a brand new office building, they were so focused on the architecture and the creativity and winning these awards that they'd actually missed some of the due diligence around what they needed to put in the building. And so some of these factors contributed to this building not being full. Do you think any of them were sitting there asking themselves, how did that happen? Right? They had a building with an expectation that was truly not clearly established. The expectation really wasn't established. Now, I'll give you another example. You guys familiar with the run-flat tires that Michelin came out with 7 or 8 years ago? Who's got them? You got them? Anyone else have run-flat tires in their car? What's your experience been with those? Okay, until you have to fix it or replace it. Okay, and tell me about that. Yeah. All right. Now, how much do they cost, by the way, Dick? $1,200 to replace 4 tires, right? Now let me just back this up a little bit. When Michelin, 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was about 7, 8 years ago, when they came out with this tire, I mean, just think about the concept here. They had gone out to develop a tire that you wouldn't need to replace with a spare tire. It will run for 50, 60 miles totally flat, and you'll be able to get to a service station to fix the tire. That's the idea, right? So they made a tire that did exactly that. The development folks, the R&D, everything, the tire did exactly what they were looking to have it do. Designed it great. It performs beautifully. But what are some elements that are required? If you've got a run-flat tire, what do you need to know if the tire's flat? You didn't know it's flat. If it's still going to run until for 60 miles, how are you going to know it's flat? What's required to let you know it's flat? There's got to be a sensor of some kind that shuts off a light in the dashboard that tells you got a flat tire. Otherwise, you're not going to know it's flat because it's going to keep going, right? So when they had originally worked on this, they had overlooked a pretty critical element of how much lead time is going to be required. Who's the key partner here? The car manufacturers, right? They'd kind of miscued on the lead time required to get into the dashboard sensor lights and have that be included in the new cars. So, but then there's also a flaw here. Are you just looking for new cars to use your product? If you're Michelin, what do you want? You want everyone to use your tires, right? So that's now going to, there's got to be some kind of a add-on that gets put into the car to tell you when the tire's flat. Now, what else is required? You need to have service centers that are able to actually work on those tires and replace those tires. How close is the nearest service center to you, Dick? Okay, so you're lucky. You're lucky. Most people, it was 30, 45 minutes away from their house to get to a service center that actually worked because there weren't enough. And so when this tire hit the market, it just didn't take over. I mean, out of all the people in this room, we have 2 people that have them on their car. This was 7, 8 years ago. Do you think that's lived up to the expectation Michelin had? No, they were looking for this to revolutionize the tire market. This was going to be the future of their organization. And it's been largely seen as a flop. Now, it's a phenomenal product, but what happened here? There were some elements of this expectation that were clearly not established clearly, that they weren't thought through, they weren't done.